I think everyone's impressions on Gears of War 2 are going to be really based on your perspective on the thing. If you just put in Gears of War 2 and haven't really played Gears of War 1 in a long time, you're gonna put it in and go, oh, you know, this is exactly what I expected it to be. Like, it's better in the right spots and you know, feels cohesive with the first game and all this stuff, and that's cool. It's only when you go back and actually try to replay Gears of War 1 and kind of look at kind of how that game looked and the pacing of that game's story mode, you're like, wow, they really spent some time on Gears of War 2 and really got a lot of stuff right in more dramatic ways than you first expect. Probably the #1 way that they get those things better in the sequel is visually. The graphics in Gears of War 2 are markedly better than the first game. You just see a lot more detail on stuff. Everything from just like the heinous looking scar on Marcus's face to all the different environments. You get a lot of different colors. You know, you're going underground and seeing, you know, mushrooms and kind of bright glowing stuff and a lot of really interesting things underground, but then topside you get to see some cool stuff as well. So that variety really goes a long way to keeping Gears of War 2 really interesting to look at from start to finish. The gameplay has also been improved. You'll find some new moves in there like chainsaw duels. They'll put the chainsaws together and you gotta mash on the B button to win. It's, you know, it's pretty simple, but in multiplayer it's kind of nice because while you're tied up in that chainsaw duel, someone else can just walk up and do you real rotten, which, you know, is a pretty good way to stop people. You'll also find some new weapons in there, such as a flamethrower. The game also has heavy weapons like a mortar cannon that you can kind of drop down and rain down death from above. There's also a chain gun that you can kind of mount on cover and turn the little crank and he'll shoot it and you just lay waste to dudes. You also find new moves such as the ability to take hostages. You kind of pick up guys and use them as meat shields, the game calls it, and you'll kind of walk around with a guy in front of you and walk around with a pistol. It pretty much makes you invincible until that guy takes so many bullets that he's not really useful anymore and you have to drop him and kind of continue on. There's also a shield that you can find and pick up and use kind of in the same way, but you can actually plant the shield in the ground and hide behind it like it was standard cover. This lets you kind of take some cover with you. Of course, all of this comes at like a reduced movement speed, so it's not always ideal to use or overpowered or anything like that, but it's a pretty cool addition that gives you more options as you play. I think probably one of the most surprising things about Gears of War 2 was its story. They attempt to play an emotional card because Dom, Marcus's kind of partner in crime, is looking for his wife, so he's kind of flipping back and forth between wondering whatever happened to his wife and where his wife is, and just wanting to kick as much Locust ass as he possibly can.
Damn it! Kill these goddamn grubs.
That's effective for what it does, but really what drew me to the story and what keeps me thinking about it is that it really kind of sets up a lot of questions along the way. It doesn't really end in a cliffhanger. You're not left like feeling ripped off. The game's conclusion satisfying. It does what it needs to do. It tells you what it needs to tell you. But at the same time, there's a lot of things you can kind of infer based on things that you see and all that it really left me wanting to know more about the world, how this war started, who are these guys really, what's really going on. I almost want to read the book. In terms of modes, the game does have its campaign mode that you can play by yourself or with a friend, either locally via split screen or over Xbox Live. The interesting, neat twist here is that you can both play on different difficulty settings. So if you're playing with someone who doesn't play a lot of games, but you play a ton of games, you can play on a harder mode, they can play on an easier one, and you can kind of both still have a good time as you go through. In addition to that, there's also another cooperative mode called Horde, and this mode lets 5 players join together and take on waves of enemies on the game's multiplayer maps. This is a really fun mode that even on the easiest difficulty setting, by the time you get to the end of the 50 waves, is really tough. Horde mode also seems designed to ensure that players who aren't going to play the game's competitive multiplayer for whatever reason get something out of these maps. Let's face it, Gears of War 1 eventually became overrun with people who were really, really good at the game. So I might not play a ton of the competitive multiplayer, and it's great to see that Horde is there to ensure that I can still get something out of it with a group of other players. Of course, if you are a big fan of the competitive multiplayer, and it is very good, it's back and has a lot of the same modes that you'd expect to see from the game. Things like Warzone and Execution are there. Wingman is a lot of fun. It breaks the teams up into teams of 2, so you can go 2v2, v2, v2, v2. And that really forces some more intense cooperation because you only have one other player with you. You kind of have to stick by that player to make sure that you're both going to make it out alive. There's also a capture the flag mode where you have to capture, in what in this case is a stranded human, and drag him over to a capture point to kind of capture the meat flag and win. It's kind of funny because the stranded human is actually armed with a shotgun, and you have to take him down first before you can pick him up. If you don't, he just shoots you, and it's kind of weird to get gunned down by a flag.
Hell yeah!
The raised player limit lets 10 players play at a time in 5-on-5 matchups, and this is handy because a lot of the new maps seem designed for that larger player cap. There's also 5 of the old maps from Gears 1 that you can get via a download code that's in the box with the game. This seems like it was solely done to prevent people from going out and buying used copies of the game, so consider that if you're thinking about not buying it new.
Yeah, eat that!
So there's a lot to Gears of War 2, and it seems like it's designed to ensure that anyone who enjoyed any particular aspect of the original Gears of War will find something to love here. For me, it's probably the pacing of the campaign and the variety of the things that you do. It's broken up nicely with some really intense, really cool vehicle sequences. You get to see a lot of different terrain, and somewhere in the middle of the game, there's something that I took to be a pretty awesome homage to the final level of Contra. That's pretty awesome. So regardless of which aspect of Gears of War you liked, you'll probably find more than enough to enjoy in the sequel.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah!